can you tell us in like a few words about yourself? What do you do?
Well, I'm an engineer by profession. I used to work for British Telecom. I used to be CTO. And now I have my own company, and we solve difficult problems for industry, like getting bandwidth to oil rigs or providing security on internet banking or services for charities, all kinds of unusual problems that people don't seem to be able to solve.
So, in this mission impossible, so to speak, I mean, what do you think? Do these smart technologies actually save us time, or on the contrary, sometimes they tend to steal our time? So what is your take on that?
Well, it's kind of fascinating if you look backwards. The projections have been that the technology would give us more and more time, but what actually happens is when we create more time, we fill it up with more work, we do more things. So my observation on my life has been that year on year, my work output has gone up. I am now doing far more work in my lifetime than my father could do in his, and his father before him. And I expect my children to do more than me. And that's enabled by the technology. And I don't think it's going to slow down. I think it's actually going to speed up. I think the easiest thing to observe is that during my lifetime, especially since I was a teenager, the creativity of the human race has absolutely accelerated. If you look at all forms of art, music, photography, movie making, we've done more than ever before in the whole history of humankind. And that's been brought about because of communication. If you look at our creativity in terms of science, I came into the life around the time antibiotics were being discovered. So if you go forward from that point and say, what has happened? Transplant of organs would not be possible without technology. We now operate on people whilst they are talking to us to make tremor adjustments in their brain. So healthcare, lifestyle, food, everything has just improved immeasurably. So I think if you take away the technology, you don't get any of that. And I think the problem is now this. You and I can't work any harder, not even if they gave us a computer that was 10 times more powerful.
If you think about the smart technologies, it's like, and doing business, is business actually being brought forward by these smart technologies, or is business actually being done still by people interacting in pen and paper?
Well, there are two answers to that. If you go to the stock market, more trades are performed by machines than human beings by a long, long way. So the majority of the financial activity in the short term on this planet is now run by machines. If you look at a lot of small businesses, if you look at a lot of big activities, they're negotiated by people, and then automation may well be put in. Roughly speaking, it goes like this. You use human beings where machines can't do the job, period. So if you go to a production line, it'll be all robots, except in those places where you need a human to do the tricky bit.
Why do you think people are still very wary about the machines taking over, or all these machines doing all the work for us?
That's been the case. If we went back 2 centuries, people were worrying about this. They still do. Partly it's because of the unknown, ignorance, but it's also partly because of science fiction. We love to frighten ourselves to death, so people like the Terminator movie and they like the horror scenarios. But the reality is that each technology that comes along makes things better for us. And if you went back just 20 years and said, I'm going to advertise for a webmaster, no one would know what you meant. And if you were to advertise that you were going to do online banking, it would be impossible. So the old jobs go, but they're replaced by new ones. And the question is, will they keep pace? I mean, if we went back just a couple of hundred years, almost 80% of the population of my country were involved in the creation of food. Now it's less than 3%. And I mean down at a farming level, at a very basic level. It's all been automated.
So what is your take? What is the future going to be in, say, 5, 10 years?
Well, in 5 years, I think that you can look forward to having online access to artificial intelligences that will help you deal with the massive information that's flowing towards you. On one level, Google is really useful, but on another, it's fairly useless. If I search for artificial intelligence, I'll get 36 million references, and here's the first 10. I mean, that's not a lot of help. I need, in my everyday work, something that will monitor what I'm doing and gauge what I need, and then guide the search process to bring me the most useful things. So at an IT level, at an information worker level, there are those kinds of things. But on the medical, life support, good living level, today we can get a decode of the human gene in about 6 hours for about $600, and we're looking within 5 years at a target that might be as low as $10 in 10 minutes. That is going to change the healthcare system.
Speaking of technology, there's always money behind technology. So, for instance, how has the current state of the economy actually influenced your line of work, your line of business?
We have seen in a 12-year period our order book go from 18 months out, it then went down to 12 weeks, and we're now working on about a 12 to 30-day order book. So if you go forward much more than a month, we have no orders, we have nothing to do, but we never get there. And the reason is that everybody is working on much shorter timescales. Things are happening far more quickly, and because we deal with problem solving, we get brought in right at the last minute when everything's gone badly wrong. Well, this is my first visit to Estonia. I've been to a lot of countries across the planet. It's the first time here. But I often hear two places mentioned when I'm in America. So if you look at Europe, there are two places to go: London, England, if you like, and Estonia. That's where the action is. That's where the startups are. That's where the technology is being pushed. That's where they're grasping the economy. So it's kind of a neat reference.
Thank you for the very kind words. A little bit for the simple people, so to speak. So can you very simply and shortly explain what actually is cloud-based technology?
Cloud-based technology is like we're going to industrialize IT. Instead of having a very heavy laptop or tablet computer or a PC, all the applications and all the information will be in the cloud. And right now, the vast majority of people access the internet using one of these, a mobile device. And the dream is that you will be able to access everything, including supercomputers. So potentially it makes the smallest Estonian company as powerful as the biggest American company, because you can get the same computing power access online. For the individual, it means that you will be able to get medical advice or home advice or financial advice, whatever, by consulting intelligences that are not necessarily human. Already in the United States, they're using artificial intelligence in the medical profession to improve their hit rate on diagnosis and treatment. That's what's coming down the pipe.
Would you trust a computer to give a diagnosis for you?
I would sooner have a computer than a human being. Human beings are very poor at doing diagnosis, and if you've ever had any serious medical problems, you soon find that out. Good technology will allow us to do measurements on the human body in a way that we've not been able to do before. They will be put into a database so that everybody is compared. And once you can see all the people with the complaint that I have and compare me with them, look at their diagnosis and outcome, then I can get a better treatment, a better diagnosis, a better prognosis, and better drug treatment.
With this kind of rise of machines, there's a lot of intrigue about that if you have a machine doing a human's job, then the average person will basically get very good benefit. But the people who lie a little bit outside of the average do not. So how do you think the technology will cope with that?
Well, again, I'm quite intrigued because it's not just North America that this is true, but in a lot of Europe, and especially my country, there is a shortage of plumbers, electricians, and people who can use their hands. In fact, for the most part in the UK, we get those people from Poland. Now, I spent my life using my hands. I used to be an electrician, technician, lineman, and not to be able to build things, not be able to repair things is quite detrimental, and I don't think that these people will be out of a job, but they may need better training and they may need better education, but there is a place for everybody and there should be sufficient work to go around, believe me.
Well, while we're getting more and more dependent on technology, what do you think would happen if, let's say, a solar storm or whatever incident would wipe out the possibility to use these everyday electronic devices in the age we have?
If there was a cataclysm of huge proportion, then that's exactly the same as a tsunami or some other natural disaster. There's not a lot you can do about it. The reality is we've not seen a single piece of equipment damaged by a solar storm ever. There's lots of press and media coverage, but nothing ever happened. It's a little bit like Fukushima. Everybody focuses on the word atomic. The reality is nobody is being killed by atomic radiation. Several people were unfortunately blown up by a conventional explosion, but then look at the 35,000 people who were killed by the tidal wave when it came in. So it's curious that the human race always focus their attention on the insignificant and don't look at what the real threats are. But you're quite right. I mean, if the technology failed, we couldn't go backwards. There's no way you can do that.
But if you look at the threats again, then on the march of technology, what do you see as the main threats or the biggest threats on the way?
Human beings. It's not that the technology is in some way putting more risk in. It's not malignant, but human beings are. Generally speaking, wherever I go, people are good. There are far more good neurons on the planet than bad, but you don't need many bad ones to cause a lot of the problem. Terrorism is a good example. So I suppose the best thing I've seen that goes in this category is Stuxnet, the virus that took down the Iranian centrifuges. That is freely available. You may or may not be aware, but viruses, computer viruses, are now breeding. They're breeding on their own, but they're also being interbred by human beings who, for some reason, have malicious intent. It's up to us to defend ourselves. We shouldn't be so naive as to think that people won't do bad things. But we have the ability to do that.
Well, Estonia is considered to be one of the first countries in the world who has been through an event which can also describe with the words cyber war. And a lot of our infrastructure, digital infrastructure, was brought down, or at least there were serious trials to bring it down by external forces. How well are the rest of the world, or are the other countries in the world prepared for a threat like that?
I think it varies by country. Sadly, we do not have politicians that are educated in technology. A lot of the time we do not have senior people in industry that are educated in technology, and it's actually quite difficult to convince them sometimes to spend the money to create a defence for something that they see as unlikely or they don't understand. And I think that there is a significant risk. You could do serious damage to power plant, pumps for water supply, all kinds of installations. So we have to defend against that. America has put in an awful lot of effort in. My country has put in a lot of effort in. I think some people are almost sleepwalking into a problem.
On the lighter side, what should we tell our children? What should they learn next? What should they do next to be successful in the emerging world?
Well, I advise youngsters to get an education that is broad as possible. You know, around the turn of the Reformation, we did something very interesting. We started to put mathematics in there, physics in there, chemistry in there. We stovepiped all the things. And now we need to educate people across a very broad range of things. So I advise young people, be interested in everything, learn as much as you can, keep an open mind, and ask the question why. It's very damaging to a society if people lose the ability to actually rationalize, think, understand, but worst of all, to lose the imagination and the inquisitive nature that we're born with. It's quite desperate when people are not interested in things. We depend on this technology for our very food, clothing, heat, light, power, our lives. We need to actually extend that, and we need to understand how to do it.